Just so everyone knows, that clock is a little inaccurate. Little inaccurate. It's like 10 minutes off. It is 4:31. I'm going to call this special meeting of the City of Utica Common Council to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Aiello, Burmaster, Friend, Miola, Irvin, Beatrice, Williamson, Colosimo Testa, DeBrango, Galimi, all present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for the deceased members of the council. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we begin, I just want to make a couple procedural notes. This is a special meeting, so the typical order of business will not be held. Tonight's evening will be regarding ordinance amending traffic schedule. It is proposed ordinance number 1, and we also have public comment period. Public comment period, while not normally part of special meetings, has been added at each of these special meetings due to the nature of how we've been calling these. And the second thing is, if the council, for some reason on the floor, decides to make motions to amend this legislation on the fly, I am going to request a motion for a 5-minute recess if motions such as that are made, so that once the motions are made, they can be verified by our council attorney, Judge Garamone, and we can make sure that they are appropriately stated and restated prior to the vote. There was question from the prior meeting, and it took quite a bit of time for the clerk, deputy clerk, et cetera, to go through that actual videotape. And I just want to make sure that that is not a concern moving into the future. So first order of business will be public comment period, but I am going to read the legislation as it sits, as proposed, as that is the piece that this meeting was called for. It's an ordinance amending traffic schedule, sponsored by Councilmember Beatrice, Colosimo, Testa, and Williamson. It is listed as ordinance number 1, dated and submitted on July 11th, 2023. The date of the legislation is listed as today, as it will be introduced on the floor if it does get introduced. This is on the agenda at this point only. The legislation reads, whereas it is the intent of the Common Council to pass legislation amending the number of lanes on Genesee Street to be consistent with the traffic pattern as it was prior to the enactment of the 90-day complete street policy. Be it ordained by the Common Council for the City of Utica that Section 216.385 of the Utica City Code of Ordinances shall be amended to include Genesee Street from Oriskany Street to Cottage Place increased from 1 lane to 2 lanes of traffic in each direction going north and south. Further ordained that the proper pavement markings be placed where necessary, and this will go in effect immediately after. Now, one last procedural note. This is an ordinance. If it is introduced, it requires unanimous approval to pass this evening. Moving on to public comment period. We have 7 speakers this evening. The first, Lisa Wilsey, if you could please approach the podium. The Common Council's provided you a copy of Section 3244, Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yep.
You may begin.
Hi, everyone, and nice to see all of you again. Again, I'm Lisa Wilsey. I am the Executive Director of the Stanley Theater and the newly minted Film Utica Film Commission that is based out of the theater. I am here to remind all of you of the concerns that this theater and its customers and patrons have with regard to the way the streetscape is at this time. I've spoken with numerous volunteers, patrons, our union, our security, outside presenters that are now worried about the fragility of coming in and the cost thereof of getting labor to risk their lives loading in from a center lane on Genesee Street, especially in the winter months. After speaking with them extensively over the months, as I'm sure all of you have done your own research, I can speak on behalf of BTL, who is a very strong business here in Utica, a legacy product of our city. I can speak on behalf of numerous presenters that come and bring their top-tier programming to our theater and and convey that quality of life to the people that live here and that want to move here. We have never been anti-bike. We have always thought that there was a better way to implement complete streets and navigate the roads in a different way. We've requested a collaboration with council people to consider a collaboration to see how we can reroute this. We're in favor of supporting this. We just cannot advocate for it in front of our loading dock and our main entrance, especially with the ADA issues we have with most of our patrons, a certain demographic. So today, I am in favor of you moving forward this legislation. I know it disappoints a couple council people, and I don't mean this to be a contentious, moment, but I really do speak on behalf of the theater, my board, my security staff, my union, the patrons, everybody that uses this theater. We are part of Utica, and I feel that we do have an impact in downtown, and I would like us to be considered in your decision tonight.
Thank you. Ron Vincent. The Common Council provided you a section of 3244 public comment period rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes, I am.
Please state your name. You may begin.
My name is Ron Vincent. I'm a proud person to live in the city of Utica. Tonight, again, and I hope this is the last time that I have to speak against the incomplete street program that's going on right now. Ever since this thing started, of course, we don't really know when it started. Nobody was ever asked anything. We found out 2-3 days before the striping started at a meeting here. I happened to be here that night with maybe 3 other residents of the city. Nobody knew anything about it. Of course, that's sort of the way things go in the city of Utica. For the last 12 years, a lot of things have changed. A few years ago, they wanted to plant trees in the middle of Genesee Street. Luckily, the Common Council voted that one down. Now, all of a sudden, they come up with changing this and putting bike lanes in, which nobody knew anything about until they seen it one day. And then all I've heard from the majority of the people I talk to are all complaints. Now, it's up to you people again to make a decision to overrule what was set forth without any knowledge to anybody, because I believe a lot of you have heard from your constituents how they really feel about it. 6 months from now, we'll be under a new administration. And one of the 2 people that are in this room is going to be our next mayor. And I hope that when this new administration takes over, they do what the last administration hasn't done for 12 years. Don't just put something in front of the Common Council and let them vote on it. Take your time. Get out, talk to the taxpayers, the property owners, the people that live in the city. Get their ideas, get their input. These people are more knowledgeable than just 9 people at a Common Council meeting. We really know what's going on in this city. We've lived here for many, 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 many years. Yeah, things have changed, but we don't just need to do something like put a bike path going down the street and turn it into 1-lane traffic with a new hospital coming, new highway right at one of the intersections. It's not feasible. You want to think about putting a bike lane in Genesee Street? You don't need one on both sides of the street. Build one on just one side. And you got 20-foot wide sidewalks on both sides of Genesee Street. It's like Park Ave in New York City. Cut them down to 10 foot. Take the other 10 foot on one side of the street and build a bike path there if you want. But go back to the 4-lane, 2-lane each way on Genesee Street like we've had before. And let's quit making a mockery of this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Deb Griffin. Please come forward. Thank you. comment councils provided you a copy of section 3244, public comment period rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes.
Thank you. State your name and you may begin. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Deb Griffin, one of the owners. My husband and I own Griffin's Pub, downtown Utica. We have been a staple of Utica for 40 years. We found out about these complete streets when the lines were painted, which was very disheartening to us, considering the blood and sweat that we've put into this city, being downtown, good, bad, otherwise. And we came into work one day and started asking our neighbors. Walked over to Paul Balzano and said, "What is this?" He said, "I don't know." Paul's been there 50 years. Walked over to Ed Lasik. "Ed, what is this?" Ed said, "I don't know." So started calling other neighbors, other restaurants. Called Pete's Classic, we don't know. Called Swifties, we don't know. Called Ancora, we don't know. Well, you made a change to city streets where we have given our life, our soul, our hours. These are our businesses. We've brought people in from all over, accommodated, yet nobody, no one had the respect for us to say, we're changing these streets. Or, what do you think of this? How does this impact your business? No one. That's hurtful. That's hurtful to be a city taxpayer all these years and to give to this city what we've given and then to be treated that way. Now, nobody stopped to say, hey, how do you receive deliveries? Nobody asked. Oh, don't worry about it, we were told. Pull in the center lane. Well, guess what? It's dangerous. It's illegal. You can't do that. We have truck drivers that were told by their companies, do not park in that center lane. It's against the law. And we don't want you bringing merchandise and dodging traffic. You can get injured. Did anyone think of any of this? Now, we could parallel park for all these years, 40 years. I gotta say, my husband is the best parallel parker you've ever seen. And if you've ever seen him park, he can park in seconds. The man can no longer parallel park on Genesee Street. Now, that's concerning, since we have customers that will no longer come down to our restaurant because they cannot park. Because in order to park, you have to use the lane to back up into in order to park, and you stop traffic, and that's very nerve-wracking to try to do that. Everyone says, well, don't worry about it. Just tell the truck drivers to park in the lane so they can deliver your goods. Well, sometimes they're out there 20 minutes, unloading, loading. So they say, well, have them go around and go into the lane where they can turn. Well, you can't because there's a double yellow line. It's against the law. We're breaking the law here as well. So I ask you, I beg of you, we've been down here, Ed Lasik, Paul Balzano, ourselves, other businesses, hopefully they're gonna speak as well. And we're asking you to go back to 4 lanes. Make it user-friendly again, customer-friendly. Make our downtown friendly and safe. It's not safe right now. I sit out there all day and watch the traffic because it's backed all the way up past the Stanley Theater. All the way up. And we didn't even change up to Cottage Place yet. So I can't imagine the traffic that's gonna be backed up. My concern is I have a driver that's parked, that will illegally park sometimes in the center lane, and you've got traffic backed all the way up to the Stanley. I wanna know how an emergency vehicle is gonna get through. I would really like to know how an emergency vehicle is gonna get through when my truck is sitting in the center lane for up to 20 minutes. And then you've got traffic backed up on both sides. There's no place for anyone to pull over. So I'm asking you to please reconsider this. We had a great downtown. It worked. We never had an issue. I've seen at least 4 accidents, in recent months that I've never seen before. So thank you for letting me speak, and I appreciate it. Please consider it. Please. We're all against it, and no one is happy with it. And that includes Balzano, the jeweler, the Lasik, Ed Lasik, ourselves, and many other businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Torsha. The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name. You may begin.
All right, my name is Tom Torsha. I've been in business for 44 years downtown, the last 33 of my own business of Pizza Classic. I'm going to touch on a couple things that are not just beneficial for me as a business person, but I think all of downtown. So I've seen a lot, not only have I been down there for 33 years under this place, but due to everybody with the health problem, the last year and a half, I've been working about 75 hours a week. So I'm there from 11 in the morning to 2 in the morning, 5 to 6 days a week. So I see the traffic from the morning, from when they get out of work at 5 o'clock, from people at night, all the way up to 2 o'clock in the morning. So when I first heard about this, I talked to Katie about it. Like other things that would have been brought up in the city throughout my years down here, I was open-minded to the fact of, if it works, it works, let's see. As long as if it doesn't, we could bring it back to the way it is, the way it was, which I think needs to happen. There's been times that the traffic is backed up between 25 and 40 cars. Last week, 3 separate times in one day, the cars were backed up from Bleecker Street all the way to the middle of the Stanley Theater. So not only is it a traffic hazard that way, but people can't get through on the side streets. The turning lanes, which aren't a bad idea, I don't think our blocks are long enough for them. So what happens is they only hold 2 cars. So what happens is people are flying up to get into the left lane so they can take the left. So although a good idea on paper, I don't think it's working realistically. And then what's happened is I know with one lane, people are like, it's gonna slow people down and they'll be able to see businesses. I don't really think our downtown is that type of business. We're not like Saratoga where all these people are coming in. They don't know what we have down there, so they have to slow down to see what we have. People know what's downtown. We're more like a destination spot. I've had customers that used to come in twice a week tell me to come in twice a month now and go, I gotta tell you, it's just a pain in the butt to get down there. Trying to find a parking place was bad enough. Now you add this, when you do get a parking place, you're unable to pull out or pull in because nobody lets you in. Because their mindset is, I was just at the light on Oriskany Street for 5 minutes. Then I was at the light for Bleecker Street for 5 minutes. I'm not gonna let you in, so I catch the Columbia Street light. And as far as slowing traffic down, what I've seen in the last 72 hours a week for a year and a half is people speeding because they're tired of getting stuck at the lights. So instead of slowing everything down, they're going faster because they're tired of catching them. The same thing, like Debbie said about our distributors, right? So I get 4 deliveries a week. Some of them load their hand cart a lot. They don't want to cross the street, right? So they park right in front of my store like they did for 32 years, which backs everything up that way. The other thing is I think people are avoiding downtown now because of this. They're either taking 12, the arterial, or going to other streets. I don't think, unless I'm mistaken, there was ever a traffic count for 3 months before we did this, and then 3 months after, to see if we're getting the same type of traffic flow. So, although a lot of the concerns are mine for my business, I've made 3 commitments to downtown. I was just a worker at Mellow Subs when it was on Bleecker Street, and then I bought into there, and then I opened my store downtown, and then I bought my building, then I bought the Bev building next door. So I've made commitments to downtown. I've had places that wanted me to open up in New Hartford or here and there, and I said, no, you wanna know what? I've been down here this long. So of course I'm concerned, but I'm also concerned for downtown because I think it's really starting to turn around with all this stuff, and I think something like this is going to hurt it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker this evening, Sarah Moore. The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244, Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
I am.
Please state your name. You may begin. Thank you.
My name is Sarah Moore, and I live in the First Ward on Genesee Street. I am disappointed, but not surprised to see that legislation to amend the traffic schedule and return Genesee to 4 lanes is being introduced. Several council members have made it clear that they value winning an imagined game over the literal lives of Uticans. A private engineering firm and the Department of Transportation have backed the current road diet. How is it that you can continue to ignore their recommendations? How can you know that the number of accidents on Genesee has actually decreased since October and ignore that? Most bafflingly, how can you think that your opinion carries more weight than what experts have shown us again and again? It's clear that this legislation is not about downtown revitalization, waiting for more information, or any other flimsy excuse that has been presented either in these chambers or elsewhere. Yes, traffic has slowed down, but that's actually good. Slower cars benefit everyone, cyclists, pedestrians, and other drivers. Again, experts have shown us this repeatedly. Those of you who have traveled around the Northeast a bit may also notice that a sign of a good downtown is actually a place where you don't want to drive. It's a place where you park somewhere, you walk around with your family and friends, and you have a good time. If this legislation passes, Utica will be taking a step backwards. Accident numbers will rise once again, and lives will be lost. This is not an exaggeration. I can't see how any of this could be less important than anything else, even if parallel parking takes up some more room. Please keep Genesee as it is, and bear the discomfort of sitting in 30 more seconds of traffic for the sake of all of our safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker this evening, Dave Wood. The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244, Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes,
Please state your name and you may begin.
David Wood. I have to say, after listening to everybody else, there's not much more to say. What I do question is the fact that some due diligence may not have been taken in putting this into play. You know, Sarah, I can appreciate what you're saying about the bikers and all of that, but what did we really take into consideration when putting delivery drivers in the middle of the street? Count the number of bikes versus the number of deliveries that happen on Genesee Street and putting those drivers in jeopardy, right? I mean, I made a joke, and it's probably somewhat true, but I see more shopping carts go down Genesee Street on the bike lane than I do bikes, right? I mean, we are where we are, and I don't think that Utica has been made a mockery of this, okay? I think that we can all learn from it, and I would hope that at this time, with the time that we've all taken to see how it works and to understand everybody's feelings about how it works, we want our pedestrians, our delivery drivers, our workers, and everybody to be safe. I believe that the 2 lanes, to go back to the 2 lanes, is the right thing to do. And I think that if shown the numbers of how many deliveries are made on Genesee Street versus how many bikes you see on Genesee Street. Now, I have to be honest. When this first came out in October, I said, yeah, great time to put bike lanes in, right? We're going into winter. We're going to test this when we're going into winter of how bike lanes are going to work. Seems a little backwards. I think more time has to be taken to view all of the intricacies of this and not make a permanent change before we screw up the traffic and the safety of people, bikers, pedestrians, delivery drivers, workers, general public, the Stanley with how many people they're gonna have, and you guys wanna move it up to Cottage Street? Like, come on. Enough time wasn't taken for this. It was pushed down our throat. We did not get a say. Nobody came to me. Nobody came to the countless other people, business owners on Genesee Street to say, what do you think? Had that been done, would the same decisions have been made? Knowing how many people, A, we employ, how many people that cross through all of our doors on a weekly basis, and how many people are up and down the street. Would that same choice been made? Not with due diligence. And that wasn't taken. Thank you.
Thank you. The seventh and last speaker this evening is Gene Tobin.
I'm going to pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone who's come this evening. That closes public comment period. As stated previously, there's only one ordinance on the agenda this evening. It is ordinance number 1, named ordinance amending traffic schedule, which does need unanimous approval if it is, if the council does attempt to vote on it this evening. So are there any motions from the floor?
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce ordinance number 1.
Okay, there's a motion to introduce, and there is a second. Are there any other motions at this point? Either to commit, debate, etc. It's on the floor right now.
What's that? Yeah, we're going to, I would imagine it's not going to be unanimous, so I would say I'll refer this to committee.
Is there a motion to refer to committee?
Yes.
Okay, so you're making a motion to refer to committee?
Yeah.
Councilman Williamson, you've seconded that. Votes on the board to place in committee.
Mr. President, if there's other legislation that that the majority of the council is in favor of turning this back to 4 lanes, there's legislation that has to do with the Genesee Street for loading and unloading. We may have to change that also in our city law, so we have to do a little more research on this to continue to make sure that everything's proper. So I'll look for the section for us and go from there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. I was waiting to see if there was another motion.
Yeah.
Call the vote, please.
7 yeas to commit.
Okay, this piece has been placed in committee. Is there any other business this evening?
Motion to close.
Councilperson Friend, you have the floor.
Just as long as we're all together. We have a committee of the whole meeting, Mr. DeBrango, on this Wednesday at 5. There are 2 candidates who've expressed interest in the board. One of them can't meet this Wednesday. He's out of town. I'd like to add, and there have been no other candidates have come forward. Is that right? Correct. So I'd like to put that interview meeting off until the first council meeting of September. Is that acceptable to you? Okay. So we won't be there's no other business, I think, on Wednesday's committee of the whole. So we could put off a committee of the whole meeting until
Yeah,
the first
and if we
September
have
meeting.
to discuss anything that's in committee, we can do it at the 6 o'clock meeting,
Right.
such as this.
Okay. So we won't have a 5 o'clock meeting is that right, Mr. DeBrango?
Yeah, why don't we cancel it? We'll wait,
Okay.
and we'll have a 6 o'clock meeting, and anything that has to be discussed after normal business, as far as what's in committee, that we'll do it then.
And we can continue to ask candidates for the tree board are welcome to submit an email of interest to you, clerk, and then we'll do that in the first September meeting at 5 o'clock.
Yep, very good.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
You're welcome. And then Councilperson Ayala did request the floor as well. You may have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say a few things. Thank you to everybody coming out tonight, and just kind of touch briefly on a couple points made. And I want everybody's businesses to succeed. I'm down there with you. That's the goal. So thank you for coming out and discussing more. One of the things I think as a council person that's been difficult to navigate is, I knew Griffin's was not in favor of it, but then on the flip side, Golden's was. Up the block, Stanley had concerns, but Nostro loved it across the street. We come down to my block. Tommy, I talk to you as much as I can, and I knew your concerns, but then I know like Urban Market did like it. So there are people who are very much in favor of it. There are people who are not. So as a council person, I was, you're at a crossroads of what to do. And a lot of this comes down to, a big part of this is Utica is ranked number 17th for the most pedestrian accidents in the state. This is a concern, and this is why I want to speak now, so people have time to process this and think about everything before Wednesday. Because of that amount of pedestrian accidents, we are responsible as a city to figure out traffic calming measures. There's a case law, Totoro versus New York City. What happened is a child crossed the street, got hit. Police traffic enforcement was not enough for speeding. The city was liable for not having any traffic calming measures in place. Because they chose the less safe option, they were sued $20 million. We did this 3-month trial. There are places where I think people are referencing congestion and points of that. A big part of this, too, I will say, is the traffic lights have never been put in place. They are on order. The city spent over $250,000 on new traffic lights to accommodate these turn signals. That would alleviate a lot of these issues. And, of course, we have the paving going on and whatnot, too. But the city has put in a lot of money to complement what New York State DOT is doing to try to alleviate these traffic accidents. And when I say that we're ranked number 17th for the most accidents, that's just pedestrians. That's not even motor vehicle accidents. So this is a concern. So for us when New York State DOT tells us that this is safer with the turning lane, maybe we can come to the drawing board about delivery zones and what is the best option with that. But again, and it's not even about bike lanes. We've talked about that before. This is about 3 lanes because that is safer than 4. And if we go back to 4 lanes, we can and will get sued if we go with the less safe option. Now, the thing with complete streets is it is meant to benefit and boost businesses too. So that's, it works in every other city. And if it didn't work in Utica, that should concern us greatly. I'm with you guys. Please keep talking. I'll be talking with all of the business owners still on that note. But pedestrian safety really matters. And when that is protected, businesses flourish too. More people want to move here. More people want to walk here. And that's, if anybody wants to read more about this case, it should be a big concern to everybody. But please reach out, and we'll talk more on Wednesday.
Thank you. Councilman Williamson, or were you trying to flag me down for Councilman Beatrice? Yes. Councilman Williamson, you have the floor.
Yeah, from the beginning, and the reason why I've been against this from the beginning is because the chief of the fire department never saw this document, never saw it before it even went out, as well as the police chief. We were also told that night when it was first laid out that every business on Genesee Street between those 2 areas were notified and talked to. So now I'm seeing it that they weren't talked to. So you can go back to those tapes, whoever brought it up, that they were all brought in and they're all talked to from business to business to business, that this was gonna happen, and it didn't. So there was a lot of lying and a lot of, I guess, political stuff going on, I guess, but I was against it from the beginning. With the fire chief did not see it as well, and somebody brought it up back there about the fire engines coming down and everything else, as well as the chief of police. There was no comment on it. He says it's the first time they saw this document 3 days prior to them striping. So I've been against it from the beginning, and now I'm really against it because people weren't notified, the businesses that deal with it every day. So that's all I have to say. It's pretty sad.
Thank you. Councilman Beatrice?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. So I want to echo what Councilman Williamson said. So I've been against this from day one. I kind of keep listening about how much safer this is, okay? And they come up with it's 20% safer, when if you look at the data, there was 3 accidents different. I believe it was 14 to 11. In a winter, okay, you can say the percentage all you want. It's 3 accidents. It doesn't sound as much when you go by percentages, do you? 14 to 11.
Address the chair, please.
In a winter that was very, very light, okay? And more than anything is kind of like Mr. Wood spoke, okay? You've been able to ride a bike on Genesee Street forever. I stated in the last meeting, I worked at Murnane Field and rode my bike from North Utica to Genesee Street for years. And that's still very much feasible that you can do that, okay? What we need to do is to take care of the people who travel that way. We need to take care of the people whose businesses are there, who are getting affected by this, by people not coming. I didn't come out here, like I said in the beginning, I believe all 9 of us would be open to redoing it, but doing it the right way. They did a study here, okay? You brought a lady up with a PowerPoint. To me, if you did a study on complete streets in Utica, there should have been a picture in front of Swifties. There should have been a picture in front of Ocean Blue. There should have been a picture in front of Pizza Classic, etc. Not showing me complete streets in Saratoga. complete streets in Syracuse. And when we asked the lady about the turn-in lane, she didn't know anything about it. So to me, that engineering study, it was not what they're saying it was. So that's why I'm doing this. I brought this out. I've had numerous complaints, and I'm sure all my colleagues who have districts, okay, received many complaints about this. You can listen on the radio every day. You can listen on the news. The majority of the people do not want this. It's the only reason that I'm bringing this out. If you ever took a poll on it, it would not even be close. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if I may.
I'm going around, the
Okay.
legislation's passed. I'm giving every single council person, if they request, the ability to voice any concern. There was a motion to adjourn previous to that. So does anyone else have anything before the motion to adjourn is processed?
Right.
Second? Any opposed to the motion to adjourn? Okay, thank you.